Good morning. Welcome to First Church Unitarian here in Littleton, Massachusetts. My name is Lara, Hoke, pronouns she, they, and I'm so happy and lucky to be the minister serving this incredible congregation. If you are new with us here this morning, whether here in the sanctuary or you're with us online on YouTube or Zoom, we welcome you, and it's very good to have you with us. Your presence is what makes everything here feel so special. So today, first I want to thank the people who stayed last week and decorated. Doesn't it look fabulous? So thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that. Today, you might wonder why in the middle of Advent, the Christian season leading up to Christmas, we are talking about a concept from Hinduism and a concept from Buddhism. Well, I picked this date because December 8th is Bodhi Day, which is the day that Siddhartha Gautama sat underneath the Bodhi tree and became enlightened and became the Buddha. So it's in honor of that date. The title of the sermon, I don't know if it's just me, Atman versus Anatman. It sounds a little like a comic book, doesn't it? Atman, Anatman. Yeah. There you go. I couldn't resist. It's all in the spirit of Leela, which is your first lesson. Leela is a Sanskrit word that means divine play. So it's very much in the traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism to have a sense of humor. Something sometimes missing in our Western religious traditions, so I kind of like that. So if you are looking for any pastoral care during this holiday season, a lot of people can feel a little blue. You can always reach out to me, or you could reach out to one of our wonderful lay pastoral ministers. Today's lay pastoral minister is Ann Donald, who is always with us online. And our other lay pastoral ministers are Jan Dustin, Linda Kaylor, and Patty Sardella. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim for Community Matters.
Thanks. Hi. Atman and Anatman reminded, the first thing I thought of was Flash and Anti-Flash, but maybe that's wrong. I'm Tim Harvey. I'm on the standing committee. A few announcements. Please fill out the survey for sanctuary seating, pew arrangement, and chancel possible modifications. Please fill it out by December 17th, which will be the last day. Monthly dinner groups, sign up by December 15th. And what's not in today's bulletin announcements, the UUUks will have their annual holiday sing-along next Sunday, December 14th at 11:30 after coffee hour here in the sanctuary. And of course, Christmas Eve candlelight service on Christmas Eve at 6 o'clock, as every year. Welcome to church.
The words of Prasanta Barman. Fountain of projection of the tangible universe, characterized by names and forms, as pervasive as firmament, as unfathomable as the Pacific, as effulgent as the sun. I am Om Tat Sat Om. Self-born and self-existent, unsullied and unwithering, lying behind manifold worlds. The indwelling spirit of all, not reducible to matter, never comparable to zero. I am Om Tat Sat Om. Let us worship. I'd like to invite, Natalie, to come and light our chalice this morning. And as Natalie lights our chalice, please join me in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And words of Rosemary Morrison. The second candle, the second purple candle of the Advent wreath, represents peace. In this time of expectancy and celebration, let us hold on to the ideal of peace, even though wars rage around the world and sometimes in our hearts. We recognize that peace arrives gently to an open heart. We light the candle of peace to remind us that it is with the softness of the dove's wing that peace descends upon us. We light the candle of peace. Thank you. Our first hymn this morning is in that Advent tradition. It's number 225 in our gray hymnal. Lyrics also on the screens. O come, Emmanuel. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
hear me? Of course. Woohoo! Good morning. This book is called Zen Shorts, and it's by John Muth, and he has some really wonderful, wonderful stories. This is really one of my all-time favorite books. So, Zen Shorts. Michael, there's a bear outside, said Carl. A what? A bear. He's really big, and he's in the backyard. What's he doing? Michael asked. He's sitting. He has an umbrella, said Carl. An umbrella? By the time the boys got outside, their sister Addie was already talking with him. I'm sorry for arriving unannounced, said the bear. The wind carried my umbrella all the way from my backyard to your backyard. I thought I would retrieve it before it became a nuisance. He spoke with a slight panda accent. Michael introduced himself, and then Addie introduced Carl, because Carl was shy around bears he didn't know. And this is how Addie, Michael, and Carl met Stillwater. And the next day, Addie went to have tea with Stillwater. Hello, Addie said as she stepped inside. Come in, a faraway voice called. Then she heard the voice say, oh yes, come out. Stillwater was in the backyard. He was in a tent. This is my birthday present from Uncle Rye, Stillwater said. He always gives me presents on his birthday to celebrate the day he was born. I like it so much that I'm not staying in my house right now. Stillwater invited Abby to sit with him. You brought me some cake, said Stillwater. That's very nice of you. Is it your birthday, he asked. No, said Addie. It's not mine either, said Stillwater. But let me give you a gift from my uncle's birthday. I will tell you a story. Uncle Rye and the Moon. My Uncle Rye lived alone in a small house up in the hills. He didn't own many things. He lived a simple life. One evening, he discovered he had a visitor. A robber had broken into his house and was rummaging through my uncle's few belongings. The robber didn't notice Uncle Rye. And when my uncle said, hello, the robber was startled, and he almost fell down. My uncle smiled at the robber and shook his hand. Welcome, welcome, how nice of you to visit. The robber opened his mouth to speak, but he couldn't think of anything to say. And because Rye never lets anyone leave empty-handed, he looked around the tiny hut for a gift for the robber. But there was nothing to give. The robber began to back toward the door. He wanted to leave. At last, Uncle Rye knew what to do. He took off his only robe, which was old and tattered. Here, he said, please take this. The robber thought my uncle was crazy. He took the robe, dashed out the door, and escaped into the night. And my uncle sat and looked at the moon, its silvery light spilling over the mountains, making all things quite beautiful. Poor man, lamented my uncle. All I had to give him was my tattered robe. If only I could give him this wonderful moon. Your uncle sounds nice, said Addie. I don't think I would have given away my robe. I know how it is, said Stillwater. There's always the moon. That was a good story, said Addie. Thank you, said Stillwater. And this is good cake. Thanks, said Addie. I made it myself. The next day, Michael went to see Stillwater. Here I am, Stillwater called from the tree. Can I come up? Asked Michael. If you are careful, said Stillwater. What if we could fly, said Michael. We could cast shadows on clouds, said Stillwater. But what if we fell, said Michael. If we fell, we might break something, said Stillwater. That would be bad, said Michael. Maybe, said Stillwater. Maybe, said Michael. And he has another story, the farmer's luck. There once was an old farmer who worked his crops for many years. One day, his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. Such bad luck, they said, sympathetically. Maybe, the farmer replied. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. Such good luck, the neighbors exclaimed. Maybe, replied the farmer. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses and was thrown off and broke his leg. Again, the neighbors came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. Such bad luck, they said. Maybe, answered the farmer. The day after that, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army to fight in a war. Seeing that his son's leg was broken, they passed him. Such good luck, said the neighbors. Maybe, said the farmer. I get it, said Michael. Maybe good luck and bad luck are all mixed up. You never know what will happen next. Yes, said Stillwater agreed. You never know. The next day after that, Carl went to visit Stillwater. Michael said I could bring over stuff to go swimming. I'm mad at Michael. He's always telling me what to do. Sorry, he said he couldn't bring stuff over. And I'm mad at Michael. He's always telling me what to do, so I brought everything. It's a little pool. I don't know if all those things will fit. Let's see, said Carl. Let's see. Stillwater looked at the pool. The things can go swimming, but we can't. I brought too much stuff. That's okay, said Stillwater. I'll help you carry it home later. Why does Michael always have to tell me what to do, said Carl. If he were here, I would climb really high, and I would jump on him like this, and I'd do a big smash like this. Later, Carl and Stillwater had tea. Carl, said Stillwater, you spent the whole day being angry with Michael. Did you notice how much fun we had? Carl watched the steam rise from his cup. I'm sorry I brought all the stuff, Carl said. You don't need to be sorry, said Stillwater. Right now you need to carry. Hold on tight, and I'll tell you a story. A heavy load. 2 traveling monks reached a town where there was a young woman waiting to step out of her sedan chair. The rain had made deep puddles, and she couldn't step across without soiling her silken robes. She stood, looking very cross and impatient. She was scolding her attendants. They had nowhere to place the packages they held for her, so they couldn't help her across the puddle. The younger monk noticed the woman and said nothing and walked by. The older monk quickly picked her up, put her on his back, transported her across the water, and put her down on the other side. She didn't thank the older monk. She just shoved him out of the way and departed. As they continued on their way, the young monk was brooding and preoccupied. After several hours, unable to hold his silence, he spoke out. That woman back there was very selfish and rude, but you picked her up on your back and carried her, and then she didn't even say thank you. I set that woman down hours ago, the older monk replied. Why are you still carrying her? Do you think you've carried it long enough? Asked Stillwater. Yes, said Carl. Good, said Stillwater. And this is how Addie, Michael, Carl, and Stillwater became friends. Thank you.
Speaks or acts with them. This congregation is self-supporting. We rely on the generosity of our members and friends for our ministries. Many share generously their time and talent for the ministries of FCU. Now, if you are able, we ask that you share some of your treasure to support our ministries. As Jonathan Mayberry wrote in Dust and Decay, generosity could be as contagious as the zombie plague as long as enough people were willing to be carriers. For those in the sanctuary, please put any cash or checks in the plates as they come around. For virtual participants, you can go to our website, fculittle.org, and look for the yellow donate button. There you will see details for how to donate online if you wish. You could also send a check to the church through the postal mail to the attention of the assistant treasurer. Thank you for your generosity. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation. Please join with me in the words of our community response. May we be transformed by our giving, and and may the world be transformed by our gift.
Many weeks we have a special time that we call the Candles of Caring. This is a chance to share with this gathered beloved community any joys, concerns, or sorrows that you're carrying with you this morning. If you have an important joy, concern, or sorrow that you'd like to share and you're here in the sanctuary, if you're able, please come up to the microphone and say your name and briefly let us know how we might direct our thoughts, prayers, and healing wishes. We will also have a chance to bring the microphone to you where you sit, if you wish. And for those of you who are with us on Zoom, please raise the hand in the reactions area, and we will call on you in turn and light a candle for everyone up front. Are there any candles this morning? I'd like to ask Larry to light one more candle and let that represent all the joys and concerns that are with us this morning, but that remain unspoken. Please join with me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us with this gathered beloved community. Let us hold in our thoughts and our prayers those joys, concerns, and sorrows that were spoken aloud, as well as those that remain unspoken, as we share together in a time of sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be. For a few years now, this congregation has had a weekly meditation on Friday afternoons, and the next one is this coming Friday at 1 if you're interested. And the reason I mention this is that in a way it brought me to today's topic and title, Atman versus Anatman. When I'm meditating, I often repeat a silent mantra to myself to help me be meditative rather than having my running thoughts or monkey mind distracting me. And so sometimes I use a silent mantra that I repeat over and over again. And sometimes I repeat silently to myself, Atman, Anatman, and just sink into those words. And the reason I choose these words is that ultimately I feel like I'm trying to connect to the oneness or the source, ideally. That's what the goal would be. Of course, you have to be a very good meditator to get there, and I'm not quite there yet. But that feels like the path to connect with my essence, or what some might call a soul. And in Vedanta, the ancient wisdom tradition of Hinduism, the essence or the soul is Atman. And I've talked about Atman here several times when preaching about Vedanta. Vedanta dates back thousands of years. It's based on the Vedas, which are believed to be the oldest sacred scriptures in the world. And in Vedanta, when you seek to realize who you really are at your core, you realize that you're not your body, you're not your thoughts or your mind. When you get down to it, you are Atman, usually translated as soul. And in Vedanta, when you realize what Atman really is, it's the same as Brahman, which is the ultimate divinity, the oneness of all things. So in Vedanta, your soul, your essence, your Atman is divine. It is the oneness. And if you want more detail on Vedanta, I'm going to do that thing again where I point here, because on YouTube later I'll link to a video where I really went into detail. It's going to look really slick, you'll see. So that's Atman. What then is Anatman? Anatman is a Buddhist concept, and it builds on that same Sanskrit root of Atman, but it adds Anatman, literally translating to no Atman. And at first that certainly sounds like the opposite of Atman, a denial of Atman. Seems like a pretty straightforward denial. But remember that before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama was a prince who was undoubtedly raised in the broad Hindu dharma surrounding him. He would have grown up in the world of Hinduism. He, being a prince with privilege, probably was literate. Most scholars agree that he probably did read the Vedas or probably would have had some knowledge of Vedanta. And as the Buddha, he did end up rejecting some things about Hinduism that he was taught and rejecting some things about Vedanta. So unlike, for instance, Jesus, who grew up Jewish and never rejected Judaism, never rejected the Torah or the Hebrew scriptures, Jesus never stopped considering himself to be a Jew. Christianity was something invented after his death. The Buddha, on the other hand, did reject some Hindu and Vedanta teachings while he lived. It's not clear that he meant to found something called Buddhism necessarily, but his relationship to Hinduism was not the ongoing devotion that Jesus had to Judaism. And so this concept of Anatman, or no Atman, what was the Buddha rejecting? Was he saying simply that there's no Atman? I mean, yes, in the most simplistic sense, but when you really dive into it, it becomes a lot more nuanced. When you think about Atman, which is usually translated, as I say, as soul, Anatman is usually translated not as no soul, but it's usually translated as no self. So it's true that Buddhism in general doesn't have that same concept of a soul. But to understand Anatman, it's more helpful to think of the translation no self rather than no soul. Buddhism teaches that there is no pure, unchanging self. You change over time. Every single cell in your body is replaced over time, some faster than others, but you're not an unchanging set of cells. Or if you think of yourself as a newborn, as an infant, are you the same self now that you were as an infant? In many ways, the answer is no. So each of us is, in a sense, the ship of Theseus. You might remember I talked about this ancient Greek riddle a few years back. The ancient Greek riddle is that if the boards of the ship Theseus are replaced over time as they age and rot, is it really the same ship? Or is it just a new ship that looks like the ship of Theseus? And of course, in the case of humans, not only are there new cells over time, but we barely resemble the being that was there as an infant. So if all of our cells are replaced over time and we don't look remotely the same over time, is there a permanent self from, say, infancy to now? The Buddha says, no, there is no permanent self. But Buddhism, like Hinduism and Sikhism and Jainism and all the Eastern religions really, Buddhism does have the belief in reincarnation. So then the question for me is, if there's no soul and there's no permanent self in Buddhism, what is it that's getting reincarnated? It's not a permanent thing that's reincarnated in Buddhism, but rather a series of things that have karmic baggage. It's hard to put it into words. If we consider you in some sense to still be a version of the you that existed as an infant, and I think most of us do think that, it's a series of things that makes you, you. It's a series of events and memories, a running cast of characters in your life who raise you and surround you. It's a series of things you've done and said, the good, the bad, the boring. No single thing persists from your birth to your death, but a series of things is you. And it's a karmic series of things that gets reincarnated. So the closest thing to a permanent thing here is a series of things that have karma attached to them. It's a karmic series. So the no self of Anatman isn't pure nothingness. It's still a something. It just looks like, or it's described like a different something, less of an essence, more of a moving, ever-changing target. In Vedanta, the Atman, your soul, your essence, is ultimately, as I say, one and the same with Brahman or the oneness. But what about in Buddhism? Is there a great oneness, or is there a great nothingness? The short answer is Buddhism does not believe in a nothingness. Rather, Buddhism has the concept of emptiness. In Buddhism, no thing has an entirely independent existence. Everything is interdependent and depends on causes and conditions, a series of things that grows out of emptiness. Emptiness is like a pure slate of pure potential almost, and a series of things grows out of that emptiness, including that series of things that is you. You come not from nothing, but from emptiness. It keeps making me think of words by great writer Kurt Vonnegut, who, by the way, attended a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Always have to get that in there. Slide. He said, "Everything is nothing with a twist." And it's true, nothing and everything, or nothing and infinity, aren't exactly opposites. They're strangely similar concepts in a way. Many great thinkers join the Buddha in believing that there is no such thing as pure nothingness. Philosophers like Spinoza, scientists like Einstein, they agreed that it's not possible for there to be nothing in the pure sense of the word nothing, because the word nothing implies something. Nothing can only really mean the absence of a particular thing. So yes, we have no bananas. So if you ask if we have bananas and I say, no, we got nothing, we still have something, we just don't have bananas. We have other things. Nothing is just the absence of whatever particular thing you're imagining. I preached years ago about why there is something rather than nothing. Why does the universe exist rather than nothingness? Physicist Lawrence Krauss, who wrote a book titled A Universe from Nothing, he also says that nothing is empty space. If you get rid of all the particles and all the radiation, that kind of nothing, he says, is actually quite complicated. Nothing is a boiling, bubbling brew of virtual particles and antiparticles popping in and out of existence on a timescale so short that you can't see them. So there's nothing, he says, but there's actually lots of stuff happening. You just can't see it. With quantum mechanics, on a scale of time shorter than we can measure, anything can happen. An electron can move forward in time, then backward in time, and then forward again. And combining quantum mechanics with general relativity, it means that everything we see can, in theory, pop in and out of existence without any supernatural forces. And as Krauss notes, one of the most profound discoveries in recent times is the discovery that most of the energy in the universe actually resides in empty space. And as he says, once you allow gravity into the game, what seems impossible is possible. He explains that once you apply quantum mechanics to gravity, then it's possible, in fact, it's implied, that space itself can be created where there was nothing before. That literally whole universes can pop out of nothing by the laws of quantum mechanics. And in fact, the question, why is there something rather than nothing, becomes sort of trite, he says, because nothing is inherently unstable. It will always produce something. So really briefly, the Buddha was correct. There is no pure nothingness. There is emptiness. And that is where most of the energy or the potential resides. In a sense, emptiness with a capital E is the source of all with a capital S, that some theists consider as the creator God with a capital G. Many years ago, I took an amazing Vedanta class, and the teacher said that she thought the Tao Te Ching, the primary scripture of Taoism, another Eastern religion, she thinks that the Tao Te Ching is the essence of Vedanta. She said that if you kept boiling Vedanta down like an alchemist, and boiling it down and boiling it down, eventually you'd get to the Tao Te Ching. And if you're familiar with the Tao Te Ching and Taoism, you know that it's very comfortable with the idea of paradox. In Taoism, everything contains its own opposite. Yang contains a little bit of yin, yin contains a little bit of yang. So nothing always contains a little bit of something. Something always contains a little bit of nothing. Or for today, I suppose, Atman contains a bit of Anatman, and Anatman contains a bit of Atman. Also, Taoism teaches that opposites are interconnected and complementary parts of a whole. They constantly shift and balance until everything becomes its own opposite, just as night eventually becomes day. With Taoism, no state is permanent. Things flow from what they are to their opposite. And of course, Taoism merged with the original Buddhism to become Zen Buddhism. So it makes sense that there's a flow from Hinduism to Buddhism to Taoism to Zen Buddhism and back around in a circle. So if everything is just a series of non-permanent events merging from emptiness, what is the point? Whether there's an Atman or whether there is no self, what does it even matter? Sure, we could say that there's karma and there's reincarnation, and that ultimately in Hinduism leads to moksha, or in Buddhism leads to nirvana, which is becoming enlightened and an end to that cycle of reincarnation. But is there anything that overrides all of that? Different people will have different answers, of course, and for some, moksha or nirvana is quite enough. But I'll leave you today with my own answer. And I'll come to it through a side door. Have you heard of simulation theory? Is this familiar to anyone? Okay. Well, there's this theory, a very current theory, simulation theory, that says that our reality is actually a sophisticated computer simulation, a kind of super advanced video game created by a higher intelligence or possibly a much smarter future human intelligence, with us as sort of simulated beings And it sounds ridiculous, but many scientists take this possibility very seriously. The original idea dating back to 2003 says that one of these three things must be true. One, civilizations die out before becoming super advanced. Or two, advanced civilizations lose interest in running simulations. Or three, we are almost certainly in a simulation. Personally, my answer is two. Surely advanced civilizations, advanced beings, have more important things to do with energy, the energy it would take to simulate our entire universe, rendering everything just for each of us individual simulated players. Never mind the ethical implications of creating simulated beings who suffer. However, like I said, many present-day scientists take this seriously. In fact, for one example, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that the odds of us living in base reality as opposed to living in a simulation is about 50-50. So what do I know? But here's the thing. For me, simulation or not, it makes no practical difference. Because whether our reality is the base reality or simulation, or whether there's a heaven or a hell, or whether there's karma and reincarnation, whatever the case might be, I'm going to try at my best to live a life that makes other people suffer less. I'm going to try at my best to live a life that helps other people thrive and enjoy life, perhaps to reach their potential, at least partially. Don't we all try to live this way at our best? To leave the world better than we found it? To help others? To help heal the world? To keep love at the center of what we say and do? So whatever the nature of our mysterious universe, whatever the nature of our paradoxical reality, love is always what we're trying to keep at the center. Love and actions of love. What really matters? Describe reality as you will. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is in the teal hymnal. It's number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Friends, for our closing words, if you're comfortable and the person next to you is comfortable, you could hold hands or touch feet or elbows, or simply hold your hands up and feel the energy between us and those who are with us online. Friends, I think your essence is beautiful. I think your essence is divine. Yourself, it has traveled through the series of events of your life, carries stories, carries meaning, carries beauty and times of tribulation. But it all makes up the beautiful being that you are. If there's an intelligent life or a future human that can create a simulation like you, it must be truly amazing. Because you are certainly amazing enough without me imagining anything on top of that. So may we emerge from the emptiness, meeting our potential, helping other people to meet their potential, and creating a world of more love and more kindness. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Anybody that wants to join Zoom coffee hour, feel free to unmute